Hello and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Friday, February 5th, 2021. And today's topic is simply called Lavender Sky Panther, the covers. So this is the 67th show I have, and I've always wanted to do this for a while, but I thought it'd be fun just to have a show showing all of the cover slides and just talk a bit about them. So here we go. But before we get into those, I'd like to say good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambo, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, dzień dobry, konnichiwa, dobrohonya, annyeonghaseyo, botarji, dobry den, aloha winala, galimera, and guten dag. And today's starter image is just of some coffee cans arranged in a little pyramid style, and it was just a backyard game for a party where you throw a tennis ball or a bigger ball at it and try to knock them all down. And I just included it. It's an older photo from years ago, but it just reminded me of, building up this channel, slowly, and including more and more whatever came up, so to speak, in the sky and presented itself as what I've been capturing. And it's just nice to look back. I thought I would only have 5 shows total, and I started doing this just to post 5 shows of some key topics. If you look back at the first 5, actually we're going to go through it in a minute, those were just the really big key puzzling issues for me of what was going on in the sky. And people started to ask me about what I was seeing, so I just wanted a place to refer them over to, like go look over at YouTube and see it, just so I wouldn't have to repeat myself, over and over again. So anyway, here we are at show 67, and I was going to wait till the 75th to celebrate, but hey, no time like the present. So let's get going. All right, this one, in the early days, I didn't really have the title superimposed, and as you look back until now, you see how much I've grown with this channel. But anyway, this was my first puzzling moment of why I even started the channel. I saw this triangular imprint. It was really large. I came out of a store into a parking lot, and just boom, that was right in my face. And then there was like a chemtrail coming down along here. There was weird, type of puff clouds I hadn't really seen before either. There was a swirling activity up here of quote-unquote cloud material. Just the whole scene was really off. And the more I looked into the possibility of there being ET life, which now I am absolutely 100% convinced, of course there is, it just showed that whether this is a military, fabrication or, advanced ET tech, whether that's a cloaking craft or a portal or a sensor of some type, I think we can all agree you don't have rigid, symmetrical, triangular geometry up in the sky and call that natural. So anyway, this started it all. Then we got into chemtrails, because again, this was in my face literally as I was driving along the street. I had to pull over and get a picture of this because it was forming a pentagram, a 5-pointed star in the sky. And then this stuff lingered and stayed in formation in the sky for over 45 minutes to an hour. So that's why it's a chemical-filled trail, and not a condensation trail. And that's covered in another show coming up after this. So anyway, then I was looking at the phenomenon of these popcorn clouds. They just seem to pop up out of nowhere suddenly and mask out a vast portion of the sky. And they weren't stratocirrus clouds or anything like that. It's like its own animal and looks like it's being generated locally somehow, because they just really manifest out of nowhere. Then we're looking at, I don't have the title, but this one was The Sun Is Not Alone. And here I'm looking at effects of a lens array or something coming through the clouds, because you see these distinct sphere-like shapes, almost like lenses or lamps, with a cross, brace in between with a hole in it. And then just for fun, I was looking at an astrolabe up in St. Augustine, Florida, and we've got the same kind of cross form with a hole. And I know these are voids and a part of some other tech, but it just struck me as amazing how similar these seem to be in pattern. But I was exploring the idea of a solar simulator in this show, finding actual patents pulled or applied for in 1961 even for a solar simulator up in the sky, showing lenses, and there's other tech up there, other types of arrays and films, advanced tech up in the sky that's definitely impacting the appearance of the sun, which is now glaring white instead of a soft, pulsing, warm yellow glow. Glow light source like we had in decades past. Anyway, that was just noting that phenomenon going on. And then this was the show that I thought would be the last one, number 5, that I would ever do, just called Red Tinged Sky Why. And in this one, we explore what is causing this igniting of red color, red, and bright oranges and yellows in the sky, because they were starting to light up like I've never seen before. Again, living for decades on this planet, traveling around the world, noticing things, and coming back to an area that I'm familiar with and noticing all the changes. So anyway, I was just exploring, some people say, oh, that's got to be red oxide, akin to what happens on Mars. But here's a shot of Mars, and it's kind of more of a dull clay-looking color. And then if you look at a red brick wall, kind of the same principle. I took a shot of rust, from a sprinkler hitting the wall, and it's that same kind of, family of rust-colored activity. But it didn't really explain to me how this could ignite so vivid, in color. So then I was looking at another YouTube site where they were blowing up gases in a balloon, with a propane torch in the backyard. And then you start to see, some of these vibrant colors like you're seeing in the upper right and the upper left-hand corner. So anyway, that made more sense to me, that it's got to be some type of gas interactions in the sky. Anyway, there still could be many other reasons, like a large planetary body entering very close into the Earth's atmosphere, and that's also why you see some of this color. So just, follow through the shows, and I put in the description box, especially in the newer shows, of what theories, what else it could be that's causing that color. Okay, then we went to crafty clouds and blue skies. This is the first point on the left-hand side, where if you follow me there, where I started to see some strange, very ethereal-looking phenomenon, where I would see a combination of what looked like, I'm describing it now as plasma, but I don't know what this cloaking material could be. But it just seemed to be like cloaking craft, like in this case a wedge shape, and either that's the craft or this overall shape is the craft that's also symmetrical. Or this could just be like a force field or some type of toroid field around a craft that's cloaking. Could be one here too as well. But just I started to see some interesting movements, and then some interesting geometries appear that look like they had intelligent design to them. And on the right hand side is just a zoom in on this little area as well. So that studies what's going on with these imprints and these things that look like cloaking craft. Then Heavens and Earth, Halos to Heliconias. I was just looking at a lot of the earlier shows were very nature-based, and I liked the idea of covering things of nature that literally stumbled upon my path or I crossed their path, like in this case heliconias or trees or squirrels, things to do with the ground, just to kind of ground us back down at the end of the show after looking up in the sky so much during a show. And so to the right, I just started noticing very vivid red-orange sunsets, so that's covered in that show. Then we had solar and cloud play. On the left is just a perfect ball at sunset, and it looked like it was superimposed over another ball beyond it. So then we get into the idea of multiple solar sources happening up in the sky. And then on the right, this turned out to be a little bit bitmappy in this version, but you can see these waves, perfect waves with a little curl on the end formed in the sky, and quote-unquote cloud material. So that was very curious too. So different phenomena like that are explored in that show. And then this is the cover for Sky Angels to Earth Banyans. And again, looking at these phenomenal banyan trees and what they do. And then on the right-hand side, you see, very distinct sky angel, where that's the head, and these are the wings. It was very beautiful and wisp-like. This one is Sky Rings and Other Things, where we look at these halos around the sun, which more and more seem to be caused by some lens work, and especially when you get burn spots equidistant on each side of these quote-unquote, in days of yore we called this a sundog, where it's a darker territory between the sun and the halo ring around it. But they happen very infrequently, and this was a time where these halos were just showing up all over the place all the time, so you couldn't really call it sundogs. With the burn spots, really bright hot spots, on each side, also implied that it was concentration and glare from lens work. So, I still maintain that these are most all of them, if not all of them, are artificial that we're seeing these days, result of artificial tech up in the sky. And then once again, we're looking at grounding down in nature, at blades of St. Augustine grass catching dew in the morning. And this one was just strange sun and sky fun. There was a glorious sunset with all ranges of beautiful purples, plums, salmon color, reddish color, rose, just really beautiful. So we explore all of those color ranges. Okay, this is Red Gator and Red Sister. So Again, we've got a very clear form, more of a cloud play feel to this show, where this is an alligator. Here's the eye on the top with the mouth open, and there was even a plane flying by in one of them. One of the scenes that I caught, it looks like the gator's about to eat the plane. And then Red Sister is just this plant variety which has phenomenal properties, which I cover. And then this phenomenal, appearance of the quote-unquote sun. It almost looked like, an iris of an eye, almost like, could be a dragon or a gator eye. So it was all very interesting in that particular show. And again, I just catch whatever presents itself in a given week or time frame, in the sky. There's no real rhyme or reason beyond that, just to try to catch sunrises and sunsets and everything in between that just looks interesting. This one is just cloud riddles to fiddles. This is a Ficus lyrata, beautiful plant, also with beautiful properties that I detail out in the show. And then this was just a really like odd man out, oddball cloud puff floating along. Even the more massive, gray quote-unquote cloud cover above just looked odd. It's very thin, not a tight consistency to whatever that is up there. And there was a trend at about this time where these dark gray, loose clouds, almost like smoke, just seemed to keep coming across in the atmosphere very, very low. So that was caught and was of interest. Okay, this one is red sky, white ring, sky fruit. And on the left was a beautiful color range happening up in the sky at sunset. And then on the right, obviously, I saw this semicircular ring and had to catch it. And at that point, I really was perplexed of what could this thing be. It had like streaming trails behind it, implying that it had zoomed through the atmosphere. But when I saw it, it was stationary. And it looks like there's something of a little more substance happening back here, whether that's part of a cloak and craft or something, I don't know. But there's shadow and dimension to that. So now I'm thinking, is this some type of portal? Or is that, some type of leftover from a craft that came and went? Really not sure, but how else does this form? This was extremely low in the atmosphere. I mean, this was only maybe, 100 feet above the tallest tree in the area, so I'm not sure what was going on there. And then this is called Moon Skyface Paradise Bird. And on the left, you can see, especially if you have it on a smaller, kind of more thumbprint size scale and not on a laptop screen, you can see the face where we've got the tip of the nose and the upper lip, the lower lip, and the chin. And it looks like, part of the eye is hidden. And then on the right, I just had purchased a telescope and was just taking very rough, rudimentary images just by focusing in through the telescope, taking an iPad and videotaping the footage, and then just doing stills from that. So it's not going to be crisp quality, but you get the idea of what's going on. I labeled a few craters in there and other fun stuff. Okay, and this is called Sky Triangles and Other Shapes. Now, this was truly and still remains completely mind-boggling to me. So not only does this document capturing triangular shaped craft for sure, or triangular shaped tech. I mean, look at this, it's symmetrical and it's a triangle up in the sky. But in the upper left, there's some stunning footage that I just accidentally caught this in my lens. I just felt like something was strange in the sky. And then this thing presented itself, and it looks like a Greek urn with, handles coming down the sides, or these are kind of like wing-like things. It almost feels a little insectoid, perhaps. But when you go into that show and see the clearer images of this, it's pretty stunning, and I'm not sure what kind of craft that is. It has to be some type of craft up in the sky. It was more like in a cloaking nature, so you had to really look for it in the clouds, but it's clear. This thing is symmetrical. If you look in the upper left, it's symmetrical, and there's like the little telltale tufts of extra concentration when something's being cloaked. Anyway, definitely have a look here if you haven't already. Then we have Skyfire, Y geometry. On the left, it was just a stunning, very striking sunset that I had to capture. Not only do we have golden hues and tones and, reddish and orange up above, but then we get to a bright, very ethereal white-blue tone up above. And then we're just also noticing, in the lower right, again, it's a little more undulating around the edges, but that's still a very clear triangular form in the sky. Okay, and this one's called Suspect Sun and Fishy Clouds. Kind of had a sun and sea theme going on here. We have, looking at the second sun, some people are calling it. There's definitely a perfect body orbiting the sun that was captured here, and whether that body is of a natural or supernatural or artificial means or type, I'm not sure, but it does orbit around the sun, as documented on other sky watching, earth watching YouTube channels, rightly so. And there was just an odd sun appearance in the sky too in this scene that was captured. And then there was this weird thing in the upper left-hand corner. Looks almost like a worm or parasite or cocoon to me. But this was a very clear imprint and cloaking craft in one of the cloud scenes. So it's very interesting. And then the one below was just a very ethereal-looking wisp-like cloud, had a dolphin feel to it. So anyway, that was a fun show as well. This one's called Red Flash and Sky Shapes. So around this period of time, and all the timestamps and dates are labeled in the actual shows, there is always routinely this red flash. It happened in the last few minutes of a sunset on any given day, and it was a really vibrant red, really beautiful. So I was documenting that. And then on this particular day, this looked like a springbok or some type of deer, leaping through the sky. It was really beautiful. Okay, this is called Sky Show, Gold, Red, and Rainbow. This was one of the most phenomenal, how do I say it, color shows in the sky at sunset I've ever seen. And it really felt almost more localized, so this wasn't coming from the sunset itself. It was like this cosmic light, set up shop right over in this area and just lit up. So I believe this now is like a kind of a stand on its own, standalone phenomenon. It was remarkable, so I highly recommend checking that out. This show is called Squirrely Stars, Crafty Skies, and in this one I had some nice Lavender Sky Panther viewers sent in some photos of their own. So on the top, the viewers said that these definitely looked like they were spacecraft. He was along the coast somewhere on vacation, and these things just came down so bright and so low. And this is all that he could really capture in the photo. But if you look at it, you can kind of see a triangular form beyond. And he said it was really kind of phenomenal what was happening. And then we got other sunsets sent in by other viewers. And then this is just a silhouette of a squirrel that I had captured. So anyway, interesting show there as well. Then we go to Sky Fun, Colors and Orbs. Now, this was truly remarkable. The sky above just ignited into this gorgeous cyan blue. This is not even an exaggeration of the color. They were even more intense. And here, this peach, bright orange peach developed, along with just having a more paler pink in the sky all at once. And then this went really deep cyan above. It really did look like artificial light, but done in a gorgeous way. And then the more I looked, I started capturing these little white, I'm calling it an orb, but it really looked like tech of some kind, like sensor tech. I don't know if these were generating the color or generating cloud, quote-unquote cloud, or cloaking cloud plasma material or what, or they just zoom through and take readings in the atmosphere. I don't know. But I caught these enough to see that it was tech of some kind, either advanced ET tech or some highly advanced human-made military tech, but I'm leaning toward the ET side of things. So that's a special show to check out as well. And then I went to Sky Marvels, Pink Air Elementals and Objects, and started to catch these beautiful wisp-like forms. And another YouTuber, Skywatcher, let me know that there's this phenomenon called sylphs. So I looked that up too, which are, like air spirits. And so we explore all the possibilities there. Then we go to lightning round and sky cloaking, and I caught this huge kind of standalone cloud anomaly, and it happened to lightning, so I had it on video mode, and then I just captured a still here so that you can see the flashes. And the flashes of light honestly seemed like fake LED light. There were no bolts, no sound with this thing, and the lights just felt artificial. That's all I'm going to say. So I know they were. But anyway, we started exploring that phenomenon and other lighting issues and cloaking issues in that show. Then this one is called Red East, Red West. And actually I grabbed the alternate cover, so the cover that got published is a little bit different. But again, we're catching this amazing red color at the sunset, and that particular day it was equally red in the morning to the east. This is Sky Mix, Bold and Beautiful. There was a lot of an extraordinary color show going on in the sky, as well as cloud forms and types, and cloak and craft. Then Suns Shine and Sky shows off. In this one, not only do we have still some extraordinary light and cloud, whole mix of cloud combinations and different forms that I haven't quite seen before, But also in this show, I really captured the effect of multiple bodies around the sun. So we're talking like 3 or 4 different light sources in one sunrise. So that was a very interesting period of time there with those skies there. This is called Sky Effects, Sun Tech plus Cloaking. And on the right, we're starting to get into, noticing a lot of these darker imprints that seem to be things of intelligent design like cloak and craft. At the same time, we get these weird effects like, is that electromagnetic wave activity? Or is that, just another form of cloaking as well? And then sometimes we get caught up in the parts and pieces of obvious shapes, but in this scene, it could be that there was something even more massive beyond it, cloaking. And then on the left, we're just capturing, there's just some strange texture happening on this thing, showing that that was definitely a cloaking craft as well, or some type of cloaking tech. So that's an interesting show if you want to see different patterns and things that could be tech up in the sky. And this was Sky Wow's Sunlit Crafts Plus Shapes. And I'm sorry this is all bitmappy on this version, but you definitely see either a piece of a craft poking out, undeniably so. If you go back and look at the show, the photos are crisper, but we've got shadow on this edge. I just showed what this could be, as far as the shape of a craft. But the more I looked at it, that would just cover like this area where my cursor is. But the more I looked at it, I saw like wings poking out even beyond. So I think it's big, much more massive craft. And I think I do outline that in the show. And if not, I repeat it in the following show to tell you or show you where it could be a much more massive territory on that. Okay, and then this one's called Beaming Sun and Craft. This was a sunrise. And even though this cloud material was kind of loosely held together, the camera phones just do a remarkable job of picking up an extra range of photosensitivity that we, just can't with our eye range right now, and known eye range. And, this definitely was looking like a wedge-shaped cloak and craft with, a little bit of an edge to it. And this was not just some haphazard, collection of clouds, that it all moved together and stayed together, throughout the scene as it moved along. There's also something strange popping up back here. This is called Awe-Filled Sunset, and this was an extraordinary show because in this one, I definitely caught a glimpse of the most detailed cloak and craft I've seen yet. And it appeared out of nowhere. I first noticed it because this otherworldly white light started popping up around it and framing it. It's not this one, it's in the show. But then it emerged to look exactly like a World War II battlecraft, and I even outlined it with sketch lines. The more I zoomed in to look at it, there were right angles, there were metallic machine parts popping out. So I highly recommend, if you only have time to look at one show, look at this one. And anyway, further on in the show too, I capture all kinds of cloak and crafts, some that look even more like like natural organisms and sea life. It's really strange. This one, is an example of a cloak and craft in here too, because, there are no known clouds that look like this just floating along on their own. So anyway, that's what we were covering there. This is called Red Red Sky. And in this one, this actually was sent in from another Lavender Sky Panther viewer out on a boat in the bay. And this just looks beautiful. And there's got to be something cloaking in here. You don't have something taking a sharp angle, like this. And I didn't really cover that in the show, I don't think. But off in the distance, in one of the other sunsets, I capture that World War II looking battlecraft that I just mentioned in the other show. One was way off in the distance, and so I thought that can't be the same craft. So I took the sketch lines from the previous show, shrunk them down to scale, keeping the scale of everything, shrunk them down, overlaid it, and sure enough, it was either the same craft or a sister or brother craft, but it matched. Anyway, it was fascinating. Okay, this one's called On the Rim, Cloud Makers or Cloud Clingers. And I started noticing another pattern where it seemed to be cloaking objects were kind of just resting or poised on the rim of some of these larger plateau clouds, or at the top of, bigger, more billowing ones, and kind of launching off from the tops of these things. So here, on the right where my cursor is, that's definitely some kind of object cloaking, and you see hints of stuff here, maybe a piece of something beyond poking out as well. So that's an interesting show if you want to see what might be lurking in the cloud rims. This is What in the Whirlwind. So this was a standalone anomaly. Actually, I had somebody call this into me and say, if you're not outside, get out and look, see what we're seeing and look at this thing. So it looks like a little vortex, like a tornado coming down out of this thing. So, and this looks like a bunch of tufted plasma or cloaking material around it. and of course, just gorgeous, glorious color happening around this thing. So take a look at that show. I do kind of break things down and point out what I think is going on, but I definitely think that's a cloak and craft. Looks like a pointed ellipse shape if you follow my cursor, something coming down. And again, you just see, when you see this tufted, what I call tufted cloud material or plasma, concentrated around the edges of these things, it's kind of a giveaway of what's going on, that there's cloak and craft. This is called Some Kind of Sky, and they're just beautiful lavender pinks, showing up in the sky in this week. And it was just really otherworldly. Really, it has to be some beautiful cosmic energy, light fields over the earth. It had a really beautiful feel to it. And then the more I looked, this has to be a cloak and craft as well, maybe along the pointed ellipse variety here, maybe one echoing beyond here. But anyway, there's just some beautiful tones and colors in that show. Okay, this one's called Sunset versus Cloud Control. This is, again, I swiped the alternate cover title slide instead of the one that actually got published, but I still thought it's pretty to look at. Just extraordinary color ranges from deep salmon and gold and plums popping up. Also strange cloud formations where these aren't even really true cumulus clouds, the way they were behaving, the way some were on angle and some were straight. And then we had this thing down here. It looked like an ellipse or saucer shape in the cloud. So that one was kind of fun to explore and have a look there at what was going on that week. This is called Pink Sky Flashlight Plus. So here we just had this undeniable, looks like a flashlight. I mean, in the UK, I think you call it a torch. But it was just pink and a beam, and this was even at sunset, looking to the east. So, how do you get a pink beam coming out like a flashlight to the diametrically opposed east when the sunset's supposedly happening on the west side? So this implies a source is causing this to fan out. So that's a big question mark, and we explore that in the show. This is called Sky with a View, and if you look where the numbers are, we zoom in and look at what look like windows. Very clear that it was either windows or some other regularized, engineered pattern. And so I just threw some sketch overlay on what I thought could be happening in there. Of course, it could be something else, but to me it started to emerge to look like an overall craft, almost like a catamaran pontoon type, where you got these points on either side. It looks like, an opening here with like two arms coming this way, and then that would be like the bridge or the deck of the thing. But anyway, that's an interesting show as well. This one is called South at Sunset Plus, and what really captured my attention here is looking to the south. Now this is enhanced a little. The photo hasn't been altered in any way other than playing around with contrast and brightness and stuff like that, color saturation. But even to the naked eye, the original photo's up in the middle center at the top. That is how red that object was. And so we look at it, and it's just like a ball. And then we have this huge shape here, which has got to be a cloak and craft in a triangular form, or multiple cloak and craft hiding in there. So what the heck was going on? No matter what, this bright ball was happening at direct due south, and there was no way that could have been caused by any sunset activity happening to the right of the photo to the west. So, that was just one of those head scratchers. What's going on there? This is called Sunny Sides of the Street, and this is where multiple light sources and bodies were captured around what's supposed to be quote-unquote the sun. Also some strange flare colors and patterns which normally don't appear ever in my camera. A normal lens flare is just turquoise or greenish. And even here you can see there's this quote-unquote sun and a big bulge next to it, so that's why this letter Y is captured, that's capturing that. Anyway, very interesting if you're curious about what's going on with the sun these days. This is called White Lights, and this, I was standing in a parking lot looking up because just something felt weird. And then I looked up and I saw these really bright glow going on in the cloud, and I thought, okay, that can't be the sunset because this is 4:46, and at that time the sunset was already going down where my cursor is at the bottom of the screen. So it told me something's right above as a light source. It didn't feel threatening, but it didn't feel great at the same time. And so anyway, I put enhancement on the photo to the right so you can get a better look. And actually it looks like a couple of circles are popping up in there. So that had to have been cloak and craft. And then the more I put contrast on the photo, if you look at my cursor is up on the left side there, then it turned out to be, when we zoom in on that, perfect triangular imprint. So there was definitely activity there. And this was at a point though where I'm still like new to what's going on in the sky. All right, this is called Rose Ship Whale. And there's some beautiful shapes and images coming out of cloak and craft in this show. And look at this. The bottom one looks like a whale with something shooting out of its mouth. It has to be craft coming out of a bigger ship. And then, this looked like a ship formation in the sea. And of course, this one looked like a rose. And in every case, it looked like cloaking activity happening behind these things. And I go into much more detail on that in the show. This is called Sky Genies. Just looking off in the distance, pumping some gas into the car. I look up and I see this, on the left, and that's undeniably like the head of a guy with his holding up his fist, maybe looking off into the distance, and the top of his torso tapering down into like a genie-like mist. And there's even a triangular form down here. And then this looked like a saucer or craft cloaking right overhead. So we explore what's going on. Something has to be cloaking in there. That's not even a natural cloud formation anyway you slice it. So what's going on? Okay, this is called What's Up in the Sky. And I started to see these really bright white crystalline structures. This has symmetry to it, and then there's even a symmetrical form happening within it. So we kind of look at what's going on that way in the sky with that phenomenon. Then we have red pink east at night. This was, pretty late at night, and yet I could still see this kind of wild cloud activity and patterning. And when I took a photo, and it was clear that it was really had a bright pink, red pink tone to it as well, even though it was late at night. So I'm not sure what happened there. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. Then we had Blue Mood west at sunset and more. This was coming out of a grocery store, and I just saw this really long, kind of almost twisting band going along the entirety of the west horizon, so from south to north. And it moved along and went, dipped down, came up, undulated. It was just really, really bizarre. And it did have this blue cast to it with brighter white lights up above. So to this day, I have never seen that in this area where I'm recording from, which is South Florida, and haven't seen it since then. So that was definitely an unusual phenomenon. This one is called Scenic Red. And, the sky was truly red, and it had all of these strange patterning of cloud, which we normally don't have. And then here you make out a, distinct triangular form. So a lot of cloaking craft happening in that show. And this is called That's in the Sky. And this actually, photo credit goes to a Lavender Sky Panther viewer on this one, who captured this extraordinary moment in time, looking west at a sunset. And this wasn't far off in the distance, as you can see by the trees. This was really local to where the person was taking the photo from, almost looking near overhead. So this is another one of those that I say is like one of these phenomenon that sometimes just, happen locally, right above. So I've got to believe that that's not only cloaking, like cloaking craft, but interdimensional activity even, and maybe cosmic light on top of that. Look, we got this like roundish shape dropping down. I would really love to know what exactly is going on in there. But for right now, we can only speculate. And as always, I say if you have any really good ideas of what could be going on in any of these scenes, even if it's just like a fantastical idea for fun, let me know in the comment section below if you like. All right, this one's called Sky Candy. And again, pumping some gas. I look up. These are just birds, blackbirds. I saw them fly overhead. But look at this thing. It reminds me of cotton candy, or in the UK, I know it's called candy floss. I'm not sure what it's called in other countries in the world. But, we get this weird activity, which could be cloaking craft in here. Strange sky, cloud patterning, beyond. And then, this thing is only lit up in this color, compared to the sunsets happening beyond. And if anything, other of the clouds would also have that pink color, and yet they don't. So that was very interesting. All right, this is called Rim Watching 2. Similar to the previous show, I was starting to catch a lot of craft just sitting on the rim and starting to zoom off. This is the cloud rim where my cursor is in this case. And this looks definitely like a symmetrical craft. And in this case, I watched them. There were multiple ones, coming out of the cloud and then disappearing in real time. So it's very interesting. This one is sunrise plus surprise. So beautiful colors in the sunrise. This is looking south at sunrise, actually. And then the surprise is, look at these strange little objects. I highly recommend you go in and find this photo in that show. We have bright white capsule-like things that had a little buddy, and as you can see, they were emerging out of cloud material, cloaking material. And then I saw these move, and then all of a sudden disappear as if they were, did a perpendicular turn and went off into the distance. So very interesting stuff happening here. All right, fun sunset. This just had a lot of beautiful, the lavender and pink colors. And then we have a weird object coming off at a totally different angle from this stuff. So that tells you That's not natural. If there's a natural cloud system, it would move along. Here's another weird one. So I'm definitely saying there's cloaking craft going on in this scene. Then we have skylights. This one was really interesting, off in a sunset to the southwest, looking southwest, because we had, even color in the sky, more or less, and then this thing was pure white. And I zoomed in and look at it. It has a, very symmetrical shape, and it has a little dome in the middle. I gotta say that's a cloaking craft. That's not a natural cloud form, and especially when you look at the angle of that thing. Then we have Skywatch on, and I saw this, and I could not see it. I pulled over, took a picture. Here we have like what looks like a longer craft cloaking, and then this huge ball looks like it's just coming down out of the sky, but a ball that is a cloaking craft, not like a meteor or anything. It didn't have a, 3D in your face look to it. It was more like a cloaked ball coming down. And I don't know if this ship has things coming up to stabilize it or what, but again, I would love to know what the interplay, what's going on in here. Then we have an imprint, of a pointed ellipse here again, so there's a lot of activity going on in that sky. This is called Cloak and Cloud Cover. This was at a sunrise looking northeast, and this thing started to emerge out of the clouds. Now there is heavy contrast and color saturation play on this photo, but these were the bright white points amidst darker gray everywhere. And then, so when I put the contrast on, I pull out where the actual action is in this photo, so to speak. So these were either light sources, or they really had to be light sources. It's the only explanation. They were really white compared again to the overall gray sky. And then here we start to see crystalline white structure pop out, and I cover what I think that is in other shows. And then over here we've got a triangular shape popping out as well. Okay, this is called Skycraft, and this was again looking to the southwest at a sunset, and these pipe-like parts, just started sticking out, very clear, very visible, to show that this overall assembly was a cloaking craft, and there were nearby craft, such as this one down below, happening as well, and that's covered in detail. Okay, this is called Sky Playtime, and look at this. I mean, I saw these streams of darker smoke, or not even cloud activity. Look at it, just like smoke popping up. And then when I put a little contrast, this still held true in white. So this is cloak and craft above that just zoomed off. I mean, look at these. They're near parallel. This is going horizontal. So whenever you have a burst of motion that goes contrary to what the normal air current would be, that's got to be its own intelligent force making that happen. So we look at A and we zoom in and we see some detail and some shadow that is a cloaking object. This is winter solstice, pretty self-explanatory. So that's when I just caught everything only happening on the winter solstice in my area. And this was a sunrise. And then again, this is cloak and craft because we have this motion going up strong, this one coming down this way, other strange triangular things happening in here. So to me, that was a bunch of cloak and craft, especially when you get the bright white hot spots when supposedly the sun's coming up here golden. It's something to pay attention to. This is sky imprints and objects, and this is again the top of a cloud, where you just see the profile moving along this way, and yet we have this moving this way and this moving this way, and I saw this move this way and disappear. So we've got cloak and craft happening here as well. Excuse me, which looks more like a light body craft in this case. Okay, then we have sun, rise, sky, ships, and in this case it's looking off to the southeast, at a sunrise. And what struck me on this one was the regularity of these kind of forming in an arc, and the spacing seems to have intelligent design to it. So we look around at what's cloaking in the sky in that show. Then this one's called Look at the Sky, and look at this beautiful, gorgeous color, but it's coming down on such a sharp angle, so that was very mysterious. It felt very positive. So I think that's another case of some spontaneous cosmic light force or a supernatural phenomenon happening, basically near right overhead. So there's a beautiful, a lot of color ranges happening on that particular morning covered in a show there. And then this is Sky Beloved, and they're just some beautiful examples, not only of color, but shapes and patterning, interdimensional craft, cloak and craft, all sorts of things happening in that show. Really beautifully done by nature. And this is called Sky Signals, and it was titled that because this reminded me of like smoke signals, these little puffs, and they come into this very geometric shape with a hole in it, and we go through and examine that in more detail. And then you've got these triangular cone-like shapes on angle happening as well, with a darker triangle happening beyond. So I'm saying this is a whole mess in a tongue-in-cheek way, positive way, of cloak and craft up in here and above as well. This is called Sky's Fire, just an exquisite fiery sunset looking west-southwest. And then the more we looked, we see two enormous cloak and craft. That's a triangular shape. When we zoom in, that's a perfect right angle. And then this is another craft with like two prongs on it the more we get into it. So it looks like this thing kind of zoomed in this way, this one's zooming down this way, and that one gets really fascinating. Alright, and this is just called cloaked. This is a most unusual cloak I've probably seen. It's definitely some type of craft here, or the craft is here, or one in front of another one beyond. But with these two strands coming down, from this thing, which has like a circular imprint on it or indentation, and comes out here a bit, and then this lone triangle off to the left. So it looks like this thing is like towing this thing, or I don't know what the relationship is. Or if we have like an anglerfish situation where this is the bigger craft and it like has something sensor happening out in front of it. I don't know. See what you think. And this is called Sky Sweep. This is the latest show until now. And this just has some of these beautiful, glorious sky wisps that were catching some red and pink signatures in the sky with some interesting structure within it. And then it looked like it had a companion, a little craft floating along here, or some maybe interdimensional butterfly or something. But you can see the trails that it looks like it just zoomed up this way. And I talk about the concept of sky sweep, where this could be plasma that comes into the sky that is there to kind of do a cleanup on aisle one, so to speak, where we have a lot of junk littering our sky these days, a lot created by humankind, via chemtrails and other things, and spraying a bunch of garbage into our skies. And so these seem to come in wherever there's a chemtrail and eradicate it, like absorb it, dissolve it, whatever. And they also come in where there's geometries or imprints in the sky that look of like a less friendly nature. So if it's a rigid triangle or a pentagonal shape, I've seen some hexagonals, it seems to come and envelop it. So I think they do kind of come in to remove anything negative in the sky. That's just my theory for now. If any of you have an interesting take on that, let me know, especially if you watch the show first, to see what I'm talking about a little bit more. Okay, well, this is the photo of the week and the close of the show for this one. I'd like to thank you for watching things here with me a while, and this is just a oversized cat, or I like to think it's a panther head, but it's really a black cat head that was taken in a store many Halloweens ago, and it just looked cute. I haven't used it yet. So anyway, I want to say have a gorgeous now, a beautiful weekend coming up, and I just wish you tremendous peace and love all around. Have a beautiful day and a beautiful now. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.